We're finishing up our discussion about the effects of World War One. Wilson's 14 points was a flop here in the United States, but it sounded perfect for the war-weary European nations. Millions of people turned out to cheer for President Woodrow Wilson when he arrived in Paris to attend the peace conference at the Palace of Versailles. Here we see four leaders of Europe, well, three European leaders and Woodrow Wilson. They call these guys the Big Four. Okay, and they are there in Paris to discuss the terms of peace for the formal treaty, the Treaty of Versailles, that's going to formally end World War One. The Big Four leaders met to discuss terms of peace. Wilson's plan sounded nice, but these guys over here, especially this gentleman right here, the leader of France, they are more interested in punishing Germany for their role in expanding the war. Let's take a quick look at the Big Four. Here's Woodrow Wilson, the U.S. President, the Italian Prime Minister, Vittorio Orlando, the French Premier, George Clemenceau, and British Prime Minister David Lloyd George. Okay. After difficult negotiations, the Allies agreed to the Treaty of Versailles. This formal treaty to end the war dealt very harshly with Germany. So think back to the beginning of our notes, our notes, the beginning of this set of notes that we had, where we talked about how the war began when the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand by a Serbian nationalist convinced Austria-Hungary to declare war on Serbia. But Germany was also allies with Austria-Hungary and used that opportunity to turn and try to invade France. And so therefore France is really upset by all of this. And, you know, France's countryside is torn to shreds. They've got just marshland, wasteland of area between the two sides of trenches that had been built. They had a lot of rebuilding to do. I mean, Germany had come within 50 miles of their capital city. Britain was not happy with Germany as well. And so this Treaty of Versailles deals very harshly, most harshly with Germany. It made Germany give up all of its colonies. It changed the borders for the Central Powers. Germany was forced to pay reparations. If you take a look at the word reparations, one of the root words is repay. It's payments to cover war damages to the countries that won. So Germany has to pay back the Allied countries to cover the damages of war. Okay. There's the reparations of Germany. So the war ended in 1918, and the Treaty of Versailles is the official treaty that ended that war, and it's the formal treaty ending World War I. Germany had to take full blame for the war and repay allies. It also redrew countries' borders. So we're going to take a look here at how different the map of Europe is going to be after this war is over. Okay. There were a number of flaws with the Treaty of Versailles. Germany was dealt with so harshly. They were forced to take full blame for the war, which makes them bitter. The reparations are so costly that it's going to financially ruin the country of Germany, and they are going to go into major debt. Okay, Wilson did convince the European nations to create the League of Nations, but he couldn't convince the United States to join. So here's the map of Europe before World War I. So here's Germany, and looking at all of the land that Germany has. Here's Russia, who had been an ally until they had the Russian Revolution and they pulled out of the war. Here's the Empire of Austria-Hungary. There's little Serbia. Here's the Ottoman Empire. Let's take a look at what happens. Well, here's one of the weaknesses of the treaty was that Germany was forced to pay billions in reparations, and they were stripped of all of their colonies, which is going to hurt their economy even more. The United States does not join the League of Nations, so without the United States, it's kind of not as influential or impacting in the world. And then when we take a look at the map of Europe post World War One, you'll notice that Russia had fought with the Allies, but they lose even more land than Germany when all of the borders are redrawn. So take a quick look. See how Germany is a little bit smaller now, and now there's the creation of Poland, but how much land is taken from Russia, which is now a communist country led by Vladimir Lenin, and they lose a bunch of land. They lose all of this as well. They lose this. This becomes Finland, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, Poland. What was the Austro-Hungarian Empire gets all divided up. It's into Czechoslovakia, Austria, Hungary, Romania, which grows in size and also gets some land from what used to be Russia. Bulgaria pretty much stays a little bit the same, although they get cut back a tiny bit. And then what used to be Bosnia and Serbia and Albania and Montenegro, those actually become the country of Yugoslavia. Okay. So we have the weaknesses of the treaty. We have this political cartoon that is incredibly powerful. And I want to take a closer look at it together. It's called Peace and Future Cannon Fodder. Okay, fodder just means, well, you get eaten up by something. Okay, so basically you see down here, the tiger is the nickname for Clouseau, the French ambassador. So he says, "Curious, I seem to hear a child weeping." And over here in the corner, we see a child, a very young child, crying, and it says 1940 class. So this is the graduating class, the kids who would grow up, and in 20 years it will be 1940, and they will be the ones who will be of fighting age. And it basically is saying that peace is only going to be temporary and war would impact the next generation. And those of us who, when we know from talking about this in 6th grade, that basically this is the pause button. The Treaty of Versailles is the pause button on World War. And that's why we end up having a World War II. And we don't just call this the Great War, because we didn't intend to have future wars. There wasn't supposed to be a second World War, but because of the way that the Treaty of Versailles is dealt with and how Germany is pretty much forced to pay all those reparations, stripped of their colonies, Russia gets upset about this as well. There's a lot of bitterness that's going to develop because of this. And basically, this is just putting the pause button on war and waiting for the next group of young men to grow up to be ready to fight. Thank you for paying attention. There's going to be some extra video links to different YouTube videos that I think really help to illustrate some of the other elements of World War I. And then don't forget, we will have a simulation game, a couple of different simulation games also about World War I. So look forward to those. But thank you so much for paying attention and for getting all your notes turned in. And we'll get ready to prepare for the Unit 4 test coming up soon. Okay, have a great day.